That's probably the best one I've ever heard you do, John. I've heard a few of your accents over the years. And, yeah, that's probably one of the best ones. Duncan, if you hear it, you've got to be happy with that.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamilton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 49 of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. And I think for the first time on this podcast, we have 4 people sat around the table today. And we are joined by David Aggiss and Tom Boulden from 360 Mortgages. Good afternoon, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us along. Looking forward to this.
It's a pleasure to have you here, guys. So the very first time we've had 4 people huddled around our 3 microphones. And I think there's a reason we've got the 2 of you on board. It's because you are not just mortgage brokers, not mere humans. You are business partners of ours. So we came on board as angel investors in 360 Mortgages last year. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to sit down and have a little chat with you about the journey so far, how we got to this stage, and tell us a little bit about 360 Mortgages and how it came to be.
Sure, yeah. So for a long time, 2.5 years, 360 Mortgages was just me on my own. I got a bit disillusioned with the corporate world and the job rat race, if you like. So 2.5 years ago, or nearly 3 years ago now, actually, I set up 360 Mortgages just as a self-employed broker. As things developed, I was very busy, figured there's more of a business to this. And that was kind of the plan, really, was to try and grow it as a business. But being very busy, it was difficult then to do that on your own. Hence, we met, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a moment, but we struck up the joint venture and Tom came on board. And I guess now, really, we've got a plan to make 360 Mortgages a real business, not just a one-man band.
That's it. So what were you doing before?
So immediately before, I was a broker. Broker, yeah. So I was a experienced broker, if you like. I'd worked for an estate agent for 2.5 years as a mortgage broker there. Before that, I've got a background in financial services. Used to work for Lloyds Bank. Bit of sales, from mobile phones to cars, car finance, subprime finance. Mostly around finance and sales, really.
Yeah. So subprime finance, 2008 was your fault then, was it?
Absolutely, all my fault. Or my employer's fault. Put it that way, yeah.
Okay, we're not going to name and shame that employer right now, but maybe later.
Maybe later.
So what was your thinking behind it? So obviously you've had a long career working for others. Was there a particular catalyst or straw that broke the camel's back that you said, I've had enough of this now, I need to do this for myself?
Yeah, I think it was a long time coming. It's probably the end process of a 5 or 6 year plan, to be fair. So going back a bit further, kind of in my 20s, never really knew what I wanted to do. I bounced around from one job to the next, never really feeling satisfied in my work, not really knowing which direction I wanted to go in. So it's typically one sales job into another, and just bouncing around. Into my 30s, I kind of thought, what do I really want to be doing? Good friend of mine from school was a financial advisor, or was training. No, he was a financial advisor in a bank, actually, in Lloyds Bank. We kept in touch for a long time, and I guess from a young age, I wanted to always do something for myself, but never known what. Mm-hmm. So the plan I put in place at that point was to get a job in a bank, qualify as a financial advisor, and then be a financial advisor within the bank. That was kind of my career plan rather than my business plan. Got the job at Lloyds Bank, qualified as a financial advisor, took the regulated diploma, which was about 12 months worth of study in and around work. At that point, the bank pulled out of financial advice. So that kind of put a scupper to those plans. But having that qualification, it was very easy for me to then add another ticket to that, which was mortgage advice.
Yeah.
I guess kind of alongside that, I'd fallen into property investing. I got along to a property seminar. Again, always had an interest in property, seen homes under the hammer on the TV and all the rest of it, wondered how they did it, and kind of got involved in property investing. So the two kind of naturally came together, and I thought that I could use that as a way for me to get out of the day job.
Yeah.
Do something for myself, which meant I'd have time to do property and time to work on the business and just be a bit more flexible in how I approach work.
You said there was about a 6-week year plan there, but the original plan wasn't 6 years to go into self-employment, I guess, wasn't it?
No, self-employment came, I guess, after the doors were closed at the bank. First door was financial advice. They pulled out that market. They paid for my mortgage qualification. And then as soon as I qualified, we're not taking any more mortgage advisors. So that was probably then the catalyst to look at something for myself. Relying on your employer, other people to progress your career doesn't always work out that way. I'd kind of, with the side hustle, if you like, of doing property, I kind of got the entrepreneurial mind going, the creative mind going, the doing something for yourself. So that kind of then it naturally just evolved into, well, why don't I do this for myself? Couldn't obviously do that, or didn't want to do that straight away as an inexperienced broker. So again, the next step was to go out and get a job and learn how the industry works, for me to then take stuff on my own.
Did you, when you first started with the property investment, did you think that was going to be your exit?
Yeah.
You thought, I'm just going to be a full-time property investor. So how did you end up focusing on that dual purpose of the property investment alongside the brokering? I
think at that point, I was looking at not having all my eggs in one basket. So property can be up and down, as we know. 2008 did happen. And I don't know, I felt I needed to do something else as well. And there was something else I did alongside that. There was an e-commerce business that I ran as well. So, there was several strings to the bow. And I guess now really I'm kind of streamlining that down. Yeah. But property at the time I was thinking property is the way to go. But then things evolved.
So what was the initial thinking? What was going through your mind when you first had your first Monday morning?
On my own?
On your own. When you didn't have to go to the bank, you were answerable to nobody.
I think I probably sat on my sofa, put my feet up, had a cup of coffee. Got to about lunchtime, I thought I better do something. No, it was daunting actually. Yeah, it was a big decision. All of a sudden my lead source has been taken away, the support's been taken away, the office setup has gone. It's now me at home trying to find clients to do mortgages for. Yeah. So I think fortunately I had done a lot of networking before. So, and obviously friends and family always help when you start out on a new business venture. So there was a bit of friends and family, a bit of previous networking. And it just very quickly became very, very busy, which was, I say, really fortunate that it panned out that way. That's probably from the activity.
Yeah, I think I remember my first day, or certainly my first few weeks of running my own business was very much, working lunches on the telly at 12 o'clock. So I've got to finish by then and I've got to take the dogs out. And it was just, good news, you are your own boss. You're in complete control of your own destiny. Bad news, you're your own boss. If you want to eat, you've got to go and sell something. You've got to make some money,
Absolutely. And it soon worked out working from home wasn't right. And then I had 2 young kids at home and I did it. The wife wasn't back to work yet from having the children. So there was a lot going on at home. That was when I moved out of the home office and into a rented office. Yeah. Gave myself a bit of work-day structure, if you like.
Definitely.
I know you said about your friends and family were the first kind of sources of your leads and your sales and things, and then it was from the networking that you kind of did. So you spent some time out meeting other people and like-minded people and people in the area that you kind of want to work in. How important is that for you, do you think?
I think that's massive. The networking primarily that I did was with property investors. So I did a talk at the Professional Investment Group, which is a monthly networking group for property investors. And I used to do the mortgage slot every month. So I was kind of putting myself out there in the public eye to a degree before I'd started on my own. But I think a switch probably clicked in people's minds. I didn't get so much business when I was an estate agent broker. But then when I was doing it for myself, kind of the floodgates almost just opened. People knew who I was, knew I was running my own business now. And leads just came in, inquiries came in.
Tom, to bring you in here, you've recently made this journey, haven't you? So you're a little bit, not as far down the line on your journey as Dave, but you've recently left the comfort and security of the day job, haven't you?
I have indeed, which was exciting, nerve-wracking, everything really. Something I've always wanted to do is to go out, run my own business, do stuff for myself, not be reliant on someone else, be self-sufficient and sort of build something as well. I set up an e-commerce business a couple of years ago, which did all right, and it gave me a bit of confidence. I'm lucky. I've always had the support of my family, always telling me, you should do it, go for it, you'll be really good. You've got to take the gamble. I worked with Dave a few years back in an estate agents. We were both brokers. I know you were saying earlier on that he was a mortgage broker there getting his experience. We both worked together. The opportunity came up to work with you guys. So I decided to make the jump and leave the employed role.
Yeah. So you said, these emotions and everything we talk about with Dave, they're very raw and real for you at the moment because you're living them, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just I'm just starting to feel a bit more settled now.
Yeah.
But at first it took, as it does in the financial industry, it took a while for everything to be put in place, ready for me, to come on board. Mm-hmm. And it was all very, very exciting until the paperwork came through, and it was, "Oh, Tom, you can give your notice in now." And suddenly it became very, very real. Giving up the salary and the company car and the guaranteed money every month. I had a good lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I had to do a bit convincing with the wife as well to say, no, it'll be worth it. Very raw. I'm just getting settled now, but it's really exciting.
I think this is one of the things that I think perhaps people don't appreciate when leaving a day job to go out and do a venture on their own. It's not so much, I'm going to be my own boss, I'm going to choose what to do. It's I'm giving up that safety net, that security. I'm going to just walk along the tightrope and I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah.
And if I fall, I'm going to break my legs.
Yeah.
But that safety net has got to be taken away, because if that safety net is still there, you're never going to reach the ambitions and the heights that you want to achieve. Mm-hmm. Because you're restrained by that. Well, actually, I need to stay here because I'm only 6 months away from the next round of promotions that I might get.
I mean, it was about 4 weeks before I left, I was offered a promotion. So I was offered a promotion, an upgraded car, a better salary. And I was thinking, what am I doing?
That carrot there.
They do. So I turned it down and, obviously gave other reasons to why. And then as they found out 4 weeks later, it's because I was planning to go out on my own. But again, I can't say that when they offered me that, you don't think, it's security. I'm obviously well thought of in the company. But I think wherever I've worked, whatever I've done, I've always done it to the best of my ability. I've always surpassed expectations. And I just thought, why didn't I do it for myself?
Yeah.
Well, I'm always doing it for someone else. So,
absolutely.
Is that the single most thing that kind of made you take that jump? Do you think I'd rather do it for myself rather than raising money for somebody else, or is it some other? I
think one is seeing the amount of money you make for somebody else, and thinking, wow, I'm making a lot of money and I want to be that someone else, and doing it for myself. The other is a sense of pride as well. I think, knowing that you've done it yourself and you've created something, and the reason that you're going on a nice holiday or the reason that you've got nice things is because you've done it for yourself. You're not relying on someone else to give it to you. It's just that nicer feeling of thinking, no, I've got this because I've done it myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they don't make that jump. They don't make that leap until they're forced to. And there's so many stories about people who have gone into business themselves, been very, very successful, but if they hadn't been made redundant first, or they hadn't had their job taken away from them, or some kind of accident or illness that means they cannot physically do the job they were doing anymore, without that, what at the time seemed like the end of the world, a negative thing happening to them, they would never have taken that leap. They would never have given up that safety net.
Yeah.
Do you think that's, see, it's, you've made that leap yourself, but you must see people, or you must have worked with people over the years who could absolutely thrive on their own.
Absolutely.
But are just lacking that confidence and that ability to take that first step off that tightrope, knowing there is no safety net underneath, and there is no company car, there is no promotion coming, there is no nice safe pension. I was a civil servant for 7 years, nice, safe, secure job. And I still see some of the guys I used to work with, they've been there 40 years. They've got a job for life. Yep. But there's some people in there who would be brilliant at running their own business, but they will not leave that safety and security.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is fear and perception of what safety is.
Yes.
Because it's not necessarily the safest place to be, working for someone else and relying on someone else to provide you with that job and that salary.
I mean, that is one thing I've always felt, being in an employed role, I certainly felt that, okay, well, I've got that security. I know that any day I can be pulled to one side and said, you know what, actually, we're making changes in the business, or the company ownership takes over, the company gets bought out by somebody and they make changes. So although there is a big risk to obviously doing it on your own, you have pretty much full control over it. Yeah. External sources are gonna affect it, but you can pivot and you can change, and that's in your hands. Yeah. Whereas if somebody's telling you what to do and how you do it, you haven't got the same ability.
They're the ones pivoting, they're the ones reacting.
Exactly, yeah. And you're sort of just told, well, this is what we're doing now.
You look at Dave's nice, safe, secure jobs, where he learned to be a financial advisor, and they said, we're not doing financial advice anymore. He learned to be a mortgage broker, and said, we're not doing mortgages anymore. He started doing subprime lending, and then 2008 happened.
Yeah.
There's a common denominator here. I don't know what it is.
I'm starting to regret my decision.
Well, that's the thing, though. Is if it all falls down and doesn't work, you can get a job.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember having this exact conversation with one of our 1%ers, probably 3 years ago now. And he'd just been made redundant, and he was debating, I'd been offered another job. He's been offered the chance to do this, or he could start up on his own. And I remember just having this conversation with him about, what do you want? What do you actually want to do? Let's take the money and the security off the table for a minute and just say, what do you want to do? I said, right, talk me through. Option number one, you go back to your own job, your old job in a different department or for a different company. Option two, you go to a different company, you have a different job. Option three, you set up your own business. And his eyes and his face just lit up when he was talking about doing his own business. And I said, well, that's what enthuses you. That's what actually gets you fired up.
That's where his passion is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could absolutely take the safety net and security of those two, option one, option two. But that doesn't excite you. It doesn't enthrall you. And do you know what? If you did option three and it doesn't work out, you've still got 5 years worth of experience on your CV. You still have that job 6 months earlier. You can go and get option one and option two in 6 months' time if it doesn't work out. And I think just having that realization that actually, all right, you're whipping the safety net away, but it is actually there still, and I could put it back. People think, once I leave the security of a day job and go out on my own, that's it, I'm done. Well, no, actually, if it doesn't work out, you can go back and get another job because you've still got the experience, you've still got all the places you've worked on your CV, you've still got all those skills. Only now you've actually got some selling skills, some networking skills, some copywriting skills, some accounting skills that you suddenly picked up as a result of having to be that jack of all trades that, starts out.
A bit of motivation as well, because there's nothing more motivating than actually feeding yourself. Because that's it. If it's going to work out, you're going to make that work because you're motivated, and that's a good kicker. Really, you're not necessarily motivated to go and do that for somebody else in their work, and that becomes a bit of a drain, doesn't it?
Because you can just dick about all month and you still get a paycheck. Happy days. But if you dick about in your business, where's my paycheck? I don't appear to have been paid. We don't seem to be able to feed the children. What's going on? Sorry, you didn't earn any money, did you?
You quickly learn the importance of making sure that everything gets done. Everything's got to be done. It's all on you. So I think as an employer, if you're looking at taking them on, so going back to the point you were making about, you can always put that safety net back. In fact, you may be even more appealing to employers afterwards because you've shown, one, you're not afraid to get stuck in and you want to give it a go. Two, you're not afraid of failing. Three, you're going to understand the importance of making sure things are done.
I've seen it on a rare occasion where someone has done a self-employed route or start their own business, just decided business wasn't for them, went back into a job. He's no worse off than he was when he gave it a go.
And he hasn't got that niggling point in the back of his mind. Like, I'm making these guys rich. I should do it myself. He scratched that itch.
He was very good at what he did. It was just the business aspect wasn't for him. He just wanted to do the job. For him, it was better for him to do it for someone else. But he tried it.
So, as I mentioned earlier, we've come on board. We are angel investors in 360 Mortgages. How the hell did that come about?
I have no idea.
How did we end up here?
I think it was football, a pint of lager, and an offer. No, I mean, I met you, John, would have been 18 months-ish ago now, at a network meeting. Actually, when you just launched a book, you came and spoke at Professional Investment Group. At the time, I was running 360 Mortgages. Also, I was doing a bit with the e-commerce. I think I bought your book to get a free 1 hour consultation.
Which you're now cashing in. You're welcome.
Absolutely. But sharing it. So, yeah. And I guess I wanted to pick your brains about the e-commerce side of things, but also growing 360 Mortgages. We then went on to another mastermind group together.
Mm-hmm. That's right, yeah.
And I think I had a specific aim if there was a particular broker that I wanted to get to that I knew you'd worked with in your 1% club.
Yeah.
So I kind of got you to facilitate that meeting.
That's right. We went to the Theatre of Greens, Home Park.
Absolutely.
Saw the mighty Plymouth Argyle slay Blackburn Rovers, I believe.
Absolutely. There's definitely a win there. So yeah, we were just having an open conversation about the direction that the mortgage business could go in and whether this other broker was interested in coming on board. And I think you just threw a curveball.
I did.
From a Dragon's Den style. Actually, the third partner.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where it stemmed from there. Obviously, plans changed and we looked at different avenues as we went down sort of the route. So that was kind of how it came about as a result of networking.
Yeah, because it's not a normal route that most people would go down. They wouldn't actually think to seek out an angel investor. I mean, for those who are listening, you don't know what angel investment is. As you mentioned, Dragon's Den, you're probably familiar with the Dragons, and it is that investment, but not just it's not purely financial investment. We're not venture capitalists looking to just put money in, flip the business in 3 years' time, and all make millions of pounds. This is a financial investment, but it's also a time investment. So we work quite closely with you guys. Literally, we had our board meeting before we turned the microphones on today. And it's kind of helping you to build that business that ultimately, everyone wins. Yeah. And it's, I do sometimes cringe when I hear the Dragon's Den analogy. It totally helps people understand what angel investors are and what they do. But there's that connotation that, you look at particular dragons looking down their nose at lifestyle entrepreneurs and, just thinking that they're above, real business owners. And I think that's not what most angel investors are like. Most angel investors have had some success with business. They've got decades of experience and they want to help the next generation of entrepreneurs to also be successful. And in many ways to just simply not make the mistakes that they made when they were first starting out. I mean,
that's why they call it Dragon's Den, though, isn't it? It's to have that fiery kind of, fierce and kind of like really unhelpful and really actually kind of.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, that's what Shark Tank.
Yeah, Shark Tank. There's another example.
It's where angel investment. It sounds warm and cuddly. That isn't. You're not going to tune in and watch a warm and cuddly show where everyone's loving each other and everything's wonderful. Like you want the. It's been a few years since I have watched Dragon's Den, but you want Duncan Bannatyne there going, it's ludicrous, it's ridiculous, I'm out, I hope you fail.
That's a very good accent you did there as well.
I'm not normally very good at my accent.
That's probably the best one I've ever heard you do, John. I've heard a few of your accents over the years, and that's probably one of the best ones. Duncan, if you hear it, you've got to be happy with that.
No, to go back to how that all came about, I mean, the thought had never really crossed my mind that I need to go out and get someone on board that's going to put some money into the business to help us do that. I've always understood the importance of having sort of mentors and coaching and stuff like that. I've never really considered having the two join together. So obviously the money has helped us fast track a number of sort of bits within our business plans. But I think the most important thing was kind of having the built-in business coaches within the business. That obviously we have our regular meetings, but even just to pick up the phone, got this problem, what do you think? Or want to do this, what's the best way to approach it? That, for me, that was probably the most important thing. And the money has obviously helped just fast track some of the plans.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've worked with coaches and mentors in my own business for years now. None of them have got a vested interest in the success of my business. They do in terms of they'd like to continue to be paid.
Yeah.
And therefore, if they're not providing me with good advice and it's not useful and I'm not getting a good return on my investment, I'm not going to continue to pay. But they haven't actually got skin in the game. Yeah. And that's, I think, the difference with the angel investment is, yes, you get the coaching, get the mentoring, but actually, if this doesn't work out, we've lost money here. Yeah. And if it does work out, as we think it's going to, happy days, we all make loads of money. Yeah. And it is just that, I think, having skin in the game, a shared ownership, but, I'm looking more to Jason than me, obviously, but it's about getting grey hairs into the business.
Looking mighty fine then.
This podcast is brought to you by Just for Men. But yeah, it's something that most people, let's say, if you been self-employed for 3 years, you wouldn't think, all right, I'm going to go out and get some angel investment now. And it was that, I think, just serendipitous that you were at the book launch. We met at another event. We met at the mastermind. There was lots of touches over kind of 3 or 4 months. And then you just came, the first problem that you came into the mastermind group with was, I'm at capacity. Yeah. I haven't got any more. I need a business partner. And at the time we were thinking, well, we are looking to partner with people. This is a business we know quite a lot about because we've had 1%ers who have been in this industry, and this just makes sense. We know the industry, we know how to market it. Jason knows how to put all the systems and processes in place. You're at capacity. There's a natural synergy there, and I think that's where I think it probably falls apart with the Dragon's Den references. Is there isn't a natural synergy there. It's just the producers of the TV program line up I'm going to call them contestants. That's what they are. And most of them are just deluded crackpot inventors who think they've got £1 million business. Well, you haven't got £1 million business. There are very few £1 million businesses in this country, and they're not worth £1 million when they're the idea. And most people, they go to Dragons Den, they go, I've got an idea for a business, and I'd like £50,000, please, for a 5% stake in the company. Yeah. That's right. So you're valuing the company at £1 million based on you've had a thought. You've got an idea, and how many times have they said it? So how many have you sold?
Yeah.
Oh, well, my mum bought one.
Yeah.
And
friends and family.
My brother-in-law bought one. Yeah. I can't remember who that was. It might have been Felix Dennis, but he said, other than friends, fools, and family, who have you actually sold any to?
Yeah.
And if you haven't gone outside of that circle of, you mentioned, the support of friends and family earlier, but if you haven't gone outside of that circle of, well, I like Dave, and he's my brother-in-law, or he's my son, or he's my girlfriend's neighbour, why am I actually going to do business with you? And people, until you've gone outside of that circle, you don't know if you've got a viable business. And I think that's where perhaps, certainly for me, it falls down with the Dragons. I don't like the thought of just, it's that they're sat behind their desks with their piles of money there, sneering down their pinstriped suits at these idiots parading in front of them who think they've got £1 million idea. Anyway, that's my rant about angel investment.
That's great.
I was waiting for you to interject with a question. Then.
No, there was no question coming. I was just trying to think of a disclaimer to the BBC, really, but we'll leave that one out for now because I can't think of one. If you can get away with Trump ones, then I'm sure you can get away with ones of the BBC. But that's
Jones won't take it personally.
Right. He didn't mention it. That's fine. We didn't have a pinstripe. Oh, nothing like getting Johnny John. You did in the book, though, didn't you? So that's
I did in the book.
You did.
Yes, I haven't been sued yet. So.
It's a great book.
It is. Big ideas for small businesses. Available for more good retailers and some rubbish ones too.
Is there a sequel?
And there is. It's called Routine Machine. We should talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about routine, I think.
Yeah.
Just one of the things, actually, because when we first got launched into the partnership, we had a very interesting board meeting back in the summer of last year, where we were trying to formulate a shareholders agreement, which is a really boring legal document. And it's one of the things that I see so many people when they go into business with others, everyone goes into it with the best intentions, and we're all friends and we're all smiles and we're all going to be millionaires in a couple of years. That is the intention. And then if you fast forward a couple of years and all of a sudden one of the partners feels that they're doing more work than the other one, and actually, well, I'm the one that earns all the money. And well, maybe you do, but you don't tend to work Fridays, and Fridays are a busy day. And but I'm the one that does the selling, and you don't even like picking up the phone. And then resentment starts to build between the partners. And then a couple of years down the line, they're not talking to each other, or they're talking to each other through solicitors, and both of them just want the other person out. So we preempted that, didn't we?
We did. You could see how well we got on and thought we got to put something in place.
We sat to.
Yeah.
It was literally, we sat around the table and each person kind of came up with, well, here's all the different ways that I think everybody else around the table could screw me out of what is rightfully mine. Well, what if I do this? What if you decide? What if you get incapacitated and suddenly need to pilfer money out of the till? You know, what happens to us? What if Jason wants to exit the business, but I don't? Well, this is, we just, whilst we're all friends and we're all talking and everything's amicable, let's write down what happens if Jason wants to exit the business and I don't. Who should we kill? We killed Tom a few times. So let's kill Tom again. So Tom just dropped dead. Okay. Yeah. Now, Tom's shares are going to be left to presumably wife, children, dog, whoever,
Who's going to do the selling now?
At the time, the dog. But again, it's what happens to Tom's shares, because Tom has rights. He has voting rights within the company. He can decide what happens with the company, which is great because we're all friends, we're all shareholders. But what happens when he leaves it to his dog? And all of a sudden, now, Luna is now making decisions for our business based on how many treats you dangle in front of them. Is it one bark for yes, two barks for no? We don't know. I mean, it's obviously it's more of a coherent conversation with the current shareholder, but
just about.
But it was a case of it was done kind of in a light-hearted way, but it was very much everyone was encouraged to think about how the others could lie, cheat, scam, and
there's affairs and all sorts in there, wasn't there?
And through no fault of their own, it was a what-if document.
Yeah.
If this happens, what do we do? So that let's fast forward 5 years down the line, and there is a problem, and all of a sudden, Dave and Tom aren't talking to each other. Now, they are the two directors of the business. If they don't want to work together anymore, what happens? Well, actually, it's all written down. It's all documented. Yeah. One party can buy the other party out. Here's the agreed price that it's going to be. If that person doesn't buy that person out, then the other person can make a similar offer. And if an offer comes in from a third party and Tom's offered some £2 million for his shares, he has to allow Dave to get the same offer. And it's just written down. It's all documented, so that there isn't that animosity of, well, I want to do this and you're stopping me from doing this. It's what you agree to.
Having a reference, isn't it? It's a reference point we can look back on, rather than trying to negotiate it when times are hard. We've laid it all out. We're all getting on.
Yeah.
And I think, starting a business, doing a business, your focus needs to be on that and not worrying, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Yeah. So to just thrash all that out, it took a few hours, but to get all of that done so everyone knows exactly what happens in every scenario means, right, let's close that book. We know what we're doing. Now let's concentrate on what's important and not be worried, well, what's he thinking? What's he going to do? What's happening here? Yeah. And you three obviously knew each other beforehand. I got brought into a meeting with you three, and I know Dave relatively well. I never met you two, and within an hour you're talking about killing me off and all sorts of stuff. But so
you know where we're going with the business.
I do, yeah. So I'm going to exit year 4 before I get killed off. So it's just one thing that you don't have to worry about then, because like you said, things change, people change, and with 4 people involved, you've got to make sure that everyone is protected in some way. But
I see it so many times with best friends go into business together and then decide that actually, we might be best friends and we might have a great time at the pub and we might enjoy playing darts together, we might enjoy going to football together, but I cannot bloody work with you because I can't stand. All of a sudden, I didn't realise I had to spend 40 hours a week with you, and I had to sit at the desk and, oh my God, you're driving me nuts. Like,
one of them stops drinking and then stops having fun, stops going out. We stop going to the pub. It becomes tricky then, doesn't it?
Something happens.
I quite like the way you look at things, Tom, because it's really black and white. Some things, the way you're kind of doing it. So, like a decision coming into this business, it was kind of black and white, really. And then when you made that decision, it's kind of like, I've got to go all out for the way it is, really. It's kind of really determined in your mind and how that kind of works. And I know you've made a few decisions in your life, kind of thing, with different aspects, health and whatever else. But you kind of go all in on everything that you kind of decide.
I do. That is, I suppose that's a very good thing, but sometimes it can be, I suppose it's not a negative, but I've always been told since I was a kid, as soon as I want to do something, like that's it then, like I'm doing it. Yeah. So, I've done football. I tried to play football. I was awful. So I went away for the summer and I played football for 10 hours plus a day, every day through the whole summer. Went back the next season They said, "Oh yeah, you're going to be a sub." We did the training thing. I scored a hat trick, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And the coach phoned up my dad and said, "What has happened to your son?" So I did like bodybuilding. So I was a little bit overweight a few years ago. I decided I was going to get into my fitness. I got down to like 5% body fat, completely shredded, which was just card magic. So I watched The Magician once and thought I'd love to be able to do that. And 2 years later, I was being paid in restaurants and bars and stuff to do close-up card magic for money. I was getting paid for it.
Yeah.
Same with this. If I put my mind to something, that's it. I'm all in.
So where's that come from? Does that come from your parents?
I think so, yeah. My mum and my dad. My mum definitely has always installed in me, if you want to do something, you go for it and you give it everything. And as long as, if you fail, you know that you gave it everything you could, you did your best, then that doesn't matter. Don't worry about anyone judging you. You just do what makes you happy. And if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability and go all in. Fantastic.
So what have you tried that you failed at?
I'm going to sound really arrogant. No, I'm kidding. So when I was, I must have been 18. It was the first time because I'd actually gone self-employed before I went out and started, and I failed. We had no money. I didn't earn money for months. I was borrowing, stealing out of family, and we were actually living with her parents, who are now my mum and dad-in-law, because we're married now. Back then we were partners, and I was living in their room, couldn't pay them any rent, and just living there, ended up owing them loads of money. And it was a big lesson, big lesson. I learned a lot about myself. So I try and always take away from every situation, even if you fail, what did I learn from it? What can I do better? I just learned about resilience. There was a lot of calling on the phone and being knocked back and stuff. So again, going back to what you said, John, I tried it. I went back to employed for a few years, and then here I am again. So
it didn't put you off making that decision the second time.
I've always known I've wanted to do my own business. When I worked in recruitment, I was like, I'm going to do my own recruitment business. When I worked in sales of like machinery and stuff, I thought I could sell this machinery. I could get it shipped over from France. And so I've always known that it's what I wanted to do. While I was employed, like I said earlier, I set up a side business similar to Dave's. We've had a similar business in the past as well, e-commerce. And it went well. I ended up taking money out of it and stuff, and it was great. I've decided to now wind that down a little bit and concentrate on 360 mortgages. But again, it was a great experience, learned a lot. And I decided to go all in on that, didn't I, as well? Dave told me about it and said, I've got this other business I do. And I said, how does that work? And then as soon as it started going, I was like, right, that's it. I read every book there was, listened to every podcast. I took out a credit card to start it, and took out a credit card and thought, now I'm going in. I'm going to go for it.
So that is the definition of all in, really, then, isn't it?
I'm not half-hearted. If I'm in, I'm in.
I think that's where a lot of people have, great success, and people think it's you've got some superhuman skill, or you've just been lucky. Well, actually, what most people have is one or two talents that they've gone all in on. So I'm really good at public speaking. So, okay, I'm just going to get on stage and speak to 300 people. It doesn't matter what the product is. All that matters is you've got that ability to say, I am going to go all in at public speaking. Or I'm going to go all in at selling. I'm going to go all in at copywriting.
But without putting that groundwork in, because I think it was really the football analogy you used just now is amazing. Messi and Ronaldo and all that didn't get to where they were by just turning up on a Saturday and going and playing football. They had to put that time and effort in to make things work. And actually, you went all in on football because you decided that's where you wanted to be, and you didn't want to upset your dad anymore. And actually, you wanted to say, that's my son. That ain't my son. So that was a good motivation there. Really.
Just in case you're listening, Dad. I knew you loved me.
But 10 hours a day of kicking the ball back and doing that practice, you had to put that in time to make sure that you got those skill levels up to a certain degree that you could do it. And the same with mortgages. I mean, you've done that too. You're not a mortgage advisor, you're a specialist mortgage advisor. And both of you are specialised in different niches within the mortgage industry to be able to put your skills to the best use for your clients. You could just do general mortgage stuff, but actually that's not where you sit, is it? So tell us a bit about what you decided to specialise in.
So I decided to specialise in new homes. So I've done a lot with local and national developers, dealing with like the Help to Buy scheme, shared ownership scheme and things like that. So I worked in a bank initially, so I had no qualifications or anything, but I didn't take no for an answer. I was like, no, I'm getting the job here. So they put me through my qualifications. Then I worked with Dave at Your Move in estate agents, and then I decided to go a little bit niche. I went to work for a new build firm. And I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought what the government is doing, despite what people think, is actually really good for people trying to get on the property ladder and trying to shift the houses and get more people owning their own homes. So for the last 2.5 years before we set up the partnership, I was doing that. And like you said, Jason, I just got my head down. I was like, I'm going to learn this. And yeah, I was definitely one of the top salespeople. And like I said, there was a promotion on the table before I left. But as usual, it wasn't good enough. And I thought, no, I want more. So yeah, it's common theme. So
brilliant. Yeah, that's good. And you specialise too, Dave?
Yeah, naturally, as a property investor, my specialty is finance for property investors. So not just buy-to-let mortgages, but a bit of refurbishment money, bridging finance, looking at the whole life cycle of a property investor. So getting into deals, raising value, pulling money back out, and growing portfolios. So that's kind of a real underserved niche out there at the moment. There's people that can do buy-to-let mortgages, but no one that does it for themselves and then does it for their clients as well in terms of the financing. So yeah, property investor finance is my niche.
Yeah, you've got that expertise from both sides of the table, haven't you? I mean, you go into property investment, everyone says, you've got to build your power team. Yeah. And it's very, very easy for people to go, well, I could just skimp on that. Yeah. And I could just check Money Supermarket and I'll find the cheapest rates, but actually you find that in many cases you can't even get the left.
I mean, I find certainly with portfolio sort of landlord clients, it's whilst yes, it is about rate, a lot of the time it's more about criteria and the type of property, their personal circumstances, and then finding the best rate that applies to their scenario, rather than just searching the whole market for the rate. It's not a rate-driven market; it's criteria and personal circumstances.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, we've helped you with some of the marketing. We've put together some case studies and testimonials. There's one line I keep hearing from these case studies and these testimonials. It's, well, I was told it couldn't be done, and then Dave did it.
Yeah, I love it when someone says my broker said I couldn't do it. I'm sure there's a way.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, absolutely. Best example was a client wanted to refinance their portfolio, wanted to pull some money out to buy more properties. Existing broker said, you can't pull any money out. In fact, I can't even remortgage you onto a better rate. You're stuck where you are. Came to me. We could have probably gone a little bit further, but we looked at it sort of pragmatically and sensibly in terms of his gearing. But we raised £60,000 out of his portfolio, which he was told he didn't have in there. And we saved him £300 a month on his mortgage payments. So, he's probably my biggest fan for life. But, just looking at it from an investor angle as well, not just a finance angle, but as an investor angle and understanding the strategies behind it as well, has enabled us to do that for him. He can now go out and buy small and grow the portfolio. Yeah. So yeah, love it when it can't be done.
Yeah, because finding 60 grand that just wasn't there before. Yeah, I love that. So Tom, you mentioned you did some bodybuilding.
I did.
5% body fat.
Yeah.
How the hell did you do that?
So it's mindset. Mindset's a big thing, and routine. I think the power of having a routine in place, knowing what you're doing, definitely helped. It was just one of those weird things. I've always sort of been quite an active person. I've always enjoyed running and going to the gym. Never been particularly what you would call in shape, but never been out of shape. So sort of sat somewhere in the middle, I guess. I watched a documentary on Netflix of these bodybuilders, and I thought, wow, the discipline, like measuring out all your food, doing all of this. I just made a decision, literally right there and then. I was like, I was like, right, I'm in. And my wife went, oh, not again. Like, what is it this time?
So when you made that decision, that right, I'm in, I'm doing the bodybuilding.
Yep.
Roughly, where were you at? In terms of body fat.
In terms of body fat, I was at 18%. I think it was. I was up. So I wasn't like. I'm pretty sure it was around the 18-19% mark. I've always weighed a bit more because I'm quite broad anyway. But yeah, I just watched it and I thought I could do that. And then I thought, right, straight on YouTube, watching videos about how to do all your food, how to measure it out, how many carbs you should be having in a day for your body weight, and how much fat and protein and all sorts of stuff. Then researching all the best supplements, and then just tackled it head on.
What age were you at that stage for the bodybuilding?
Not last year, the year before. A couple of years ago.
Oh, quite a late stage.
So I was 20.
I mean, that's
18 years old.
But you weren't young when you kind of made that. Actually, making that decision.
28.
28. That's not bad.
30 now, so
And the footballing thing, I guess, was when you were.
That was when I was a lot younger. I was in school still. So
that's interesting. A lot of 28-year-olds would go. It's a young man's game,
or
or you would have gotten into it before. It's a funny age to decide. Oh, I fancy having a go at that.
That's where I was trying to go with it, because the other time is when hit 30, right? Let's hit life changing. Then because I actually got to a crucial point. But at 28, you're kind of neither here nor there, are you? So decide. Actually, I've seen the videos. They look quite fair. That's the look that I want to kind of go for. That's a pretty.
I think what made me see it was not necessarily like the way they look. I didn't think, it would be great to have like abs and be all defined and everything. It was actually the fact that when they were talking about what they're doing, saying, I don't eat any of this and I have to have a really strict diet and it took me years to achieve this. I started thinking, what an achievement to be able to do that. So then I started thinking, I wonder how hard it is. So I started reading things online about how hard it is to do that and be that disciplined. And it's not like, I'm going to be disciplined for a few days and then have a day off. It's like you can't do that. You've got to measure your food. You've got to prep all your food.
Yep.
You've got to measure it. You've got to do all that. And then on top of that, training twice a day. So I was doing heavy weightlifting in the morning. Then I was going out for cardio in the evening. And it was mad.
So you've got to be all in then, yeah?
You've got to be all in, yeah.
Well, that's really interesting, because just as you described that there, so I went on YouTube and it wasn't the results. It wasn't the abs. It wasn't the definition. It wasn't the wonderful tans and the lovely skimpy shorts they wear. It might have been that. I mean, that must be bonus for you. But what I've seen to appeal to you more was the fact that it was hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And that going back to what I was saying earlier, it's not necessarily the shiny and the pot of money at the end, even with 360 mortgages. It's what a challenge. I want to create something here. Everyone says how hard it is to grow a business.
Yeah.
And I know what our plans are for 360 mortgages, and it really excites me. And bring it on.
So so you saw these interviews, it's really hard. That's great. I wonder if I could give that a go. And you then started looking at videos of what to do. If you discovered then that it wasn't as hard as they were making out, would you have still done it?
Probably not. No, I would probably thought, everyone does it. It's not. Yeah.
That's why we're with these big baggy jumpers, just to cover up our abs and our definition. You see?
Of course, yeah. Don't want to intimidate anyone, do you? So.
I don't understand, but it's 3% body fat.
So it was hard. It was very hard. Obviously, I haven't kept to that. I got there, and I was like,
you've done it.
Yeah, it was almost like a tick in the box. Now for me, it's more about my health rather than getting to a certain percent and looking a certain way to do that. It's more now. Well, actually, I'm putting this in my body, and I've got this routine because it's better for my health and longevity.
Because now you only go to the gym how many times a week?
About 6 or 7.
Well, that's down. It was 9 last time I asked.
Yeah, well, obviously the business now is Boulden. So on to the next.
So all those people listening who are like, I haven't got time to go to the gym, Tom has now cut it down to 6 or 7 times a week.
I think it's a matter of priorities, isn't it? It's whether it's a priority for you, because if something's a priority, you will find time for it.
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah. I will say you haven't got kids yet, have you?
I haven't, no.
Yeah,
no.
That time will evaporate when you have kids.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
You're either all in or all out, so you've got to when it comes to kids. That's great. So knowledge is really important to you, and that's the same for both of you because you're both kind of into that. So what kind of books and things? What's your last book that you read?
The Importance of Sleep. Or Why We Sleep, I think it was called.
Which
is a recommendation from John.
Yep.
So
just because he recommended it, or was something you needed to change in your own?
Well, to be honest, I was starting to feel really tired all the time.
I was to the gym that many times. I'm tired thinking about it.
Wait till you have kids.
Yeah. I found myself running on coffee. So I was drinking coffee. I was, Dave will say as well, we work really hard for what we do. We work a lot of hours. We work really hard, trying to fit that in with the gym, spend time with the wife, see the family. And I was just getting so tired all the time. It was getting to 3-4 o'clock, and I was like, I can't like literally focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So then, when you recommended that book, I thought, brilliant. Yeah, I need to give that a listen. Which again, I've cut the coffee out now, cut the caffeine out. Tried to cut down on the alcohol, but we're in December now, so see how long that lasts. Yeah, just important to get to sleep.
It's an amazing book. It's I listened to the audiobook on holiday last year. And it's a 14-hour book, 14-hour book. essentially, it can be summed up in 3 words: get more sleep.
Absolutely.
But it's just example after example after example of why getting more sleep is the closest thing to a magic pill that we could all take if you want to be healthier, happier, have better mental health, make better decisions, make more money, be more attractive, whatever, live longer. Just spend more time in bed.
Please, can you edit this bit out for my wife if she ever listens to these things?
Unless your name is Emma Brockman, in which case you get plenty of sleep. Everybody.
Yeah, that's it. She's going to live forever. So Dave, what book have you read?
I'm currently halfway through the same book, actually.
Right, okay.
Keeps falling asleep.
Yeah.
So maybe the one before that then.
Before that, obviously, John's book, Big Ideas for Businesses. The latest Richard Branson autobiography, that was really good. Just listening to how he's done what he's done and the story behind that is really entertaining. But yeah, if I'm going to pick up a book, or more so listen to a book now, it's going to be something in that sort of mindset space, business space, personal development space. I really enjoy sort of growing and learning.
Yeah, but I listened to the Branson book a couple of months back. Is it Finding My Virginity? Is that the latest
I think
one?
it is, yeah.
And it kind of picks up about kind of late or mid to late 2000s, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I found there's a bit of a disconnect there because the guy at the very start of the book is already a multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
And there's a real disconnect between this guy who's, all the stories were about him wakeboarding on his private island and how he's going to take us all into space. Bit of a disconnect between me and, I'm just investing in a mortgage company at the moment.
Yeah, it's full of pipe dream stuff, isn't it? Maybe it's bigger picture, maybe late down the line, maybe not, who knows, but it's inspiration, I guess.
It's very inspirational. Yeah. And to think that, yes, that's where he is now, but it did all start with a student magazine.
Yeah, and there's quite a few examples going back to the early days as well. Although he's written the book on the beginning, it does refer back. But it's kind of that follow on and where you can get if you
aspiration rather than inspiration. I'd probably say
so,
actually being able to reach for the stars or the moon or wherever it is he wants to take you.
Exactly,
it's pretty much about having that, having that headset that makes you think that.
I think the other key thing I took from that book was that people have this perception that Richard Branson is running all these companies, and he's not. The majority of it is he gets the best person in that he can possibly find to run each company, and then attaches the Virgin name to it. And they're almost all joint ventures, and they're all joint ventures with the best people in the industry. And all he wants is the best people, the best systems, the best marketing, and all he's got to do is turn up to the press launch. And put a silly costume on, throw himself off a building, and boom, that's his job done. He can go back to naked wakeboarding with supermodels.
Might do that in the press launch.
So one thing we touched on earlier briefly, Tom, you mentioned your routine, very important to you for the bodybuilding. You say about weighing out chicken and brown rice and training twice a day. Have you brought that into the business world now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I've got a sort of structure in my head how I'd like a day to go, I guess. So I normally get up. I'm quite an early bird, so I'd say between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'm normally up.
Wow.
Take the dog out over to the park, give her a walk. Then I'll probably head to the gym and then get into the office. Sometimes I'm in the office by about 7:30, 8:30 sometimes. In terms of structure for the day, I'm still finding my way a little bit with that. Okay. Growing a business and learning, and there's so many moving parts to it, and so many things that are different from being in the employed world that you soon realise, that this is a lot different. In terms of life, I definitely have a routine. I'm up, I take the dog out, I go to the gym, I go to the office. I probably eat the same food pretty much 90% of the time because I know what I like and it's easy. I think
so. In a way, I know go back to the bodybuilding where it was difficult, but you actually made it easy by having a routine.
Oh, yeah.
What you do is prep your food, weigh your food, which you then just need to eat what you've prepped and train when you're meant to be training. That's all you had to do, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, when I first started
can do that.
It's as easy as that.
But the hard thing is actually sticking to that routine. Creating the routine is easy. Follow the routine, you get the results.
It's as simple as that.
Stick to the routine though, and saying, Oh, it's now day 23. Oh, it's chicken and brown rice with some broccoli again.
Yeah, story of my life that was. Yeah, it was. But I think with routine, it's difficult at first, but then, it starts to form a habit, and then it's just what you do. So every Sunday, it would be, it's 4:00. So at first, it was quite difficult weighing out all the food and knowing what to cook and when. But by the end of it, it was just like autopilot. Yeah. It was just chicken breasts on the tray. I knew what temperature the oven had to be on. In they go. Stick the water on boil for the broccoli. Yeah. Rice goes in the microwave. 3 minutes. Go back in the living room. Sit down. Do whatever I was doing in there. Yeah. Go back out. Check on it. Job done. Cut it all up. By the end of it, I could pretty much just grab a handful of chicken and know how much it weighed anyway. So I was pretty much doing a handful in each.
So it becomes autopilot, doesn't it?
Yeah. And at that point, it was quite easy. In fact, at that point, this is where, with things like bodybuilding and trying to do that, you've got to be careful if you've got an addictive personality, because I think I went a little bit too far.
Okay.
And I was, I wouldn't eat anything. Like, it was so strict.
Sorry, it's not on my macros. I can't eat that.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's to the point where I knew what macros I needed. So it was a certain percentage. And if it was 2% one way, I'd be like, but then when you think, when the
slice that little bit of broccoli off.
It got to that point, and there was
that what you're doing when you put it in your phone?
Yeah, it's to track it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
My Fitness Pal.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Shout out to the app. Yeah, that's great.
Mine has more cheesecake on it.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm having a mirror, and he's there like typing. I've just had this. How many grains of rice was in there? It's like, what are you doing?
Cheesecake.
And then he gets a cheesecake. So what? You went through all of that.
Damn. Blown the macros.
Yeah. But routine, absolutely. It's so powerful. Difficult at first. Yeah. But you've got to stick like anything in life. You've got to stick at it, and then it starts to form a habit. And then before you know it, it's just part of who you are and what you do.
It is. So I'm going to turn and now and look 90 degrees to my right, Mr. Aggiss. We've talked about routine in some of our meetings, haven't we?
About routine, yeah. So it's very much a work in progress still for me. I think coming out of the routine of having a job and then being my own boss got me way out of any form of routine, especially with 2 young kids at the time as well. So I'm my boss. I don't have to be at my desk for 9. So I wouldn't be at my desk for 9. Sometimes it would be 8, sometimes it would be 10, sometimes it would be 2. So I kind of fell out of the routine habit because I could. And with the kids as well, as your kids sort of go from newborn into, babies, toddlers, going to school, that whole cycle of life for them changes and sleepless nights. So I'm kind of at this point now where routine is something that I need to be implementing more. Yeah. At our last network meeting, our mastermind meeting, kind of got the guys in the group to kind of break down my life for me, because it's difficult when you're in it as well. I think sometimes to see where you're going wrong and where you can implement the routines, and it becomes a bit of overwhelm, and I can't do this because that might happen or this could happen. And a whole load of ifs, buts and maybes. So the biggest thing really was then defining, when do I start work, when do I finish work? So across the group, we kind of just basically structured my day and who's having kids what morning, and is the wife having them, am I having them? And now it's at that point of maybe tweaking it to fit in with how it does work day to day, but then it's implementing it. Yeah. And it's not all happened as we planned, but I've still got that reference to go back to. And that's the work I'm working on now, is working that routine into it. Whereas before it used to be, I can stay at my desk until midnight if I need to, or I don't have to go in until the afternoon. So there was one day to the next was no routine. But it then, where we are now, I need to focus on the routine to be able to spend the time with the kids, be home on time, get up in time, try and fit some fitness in there. Maybe not to that extent, but maybe, squash a couple of times a week. If I can put that in my diary and it forms part of the routine, then there's various different areas in life you need to tick a box for.
What do you think is stopping you from doing that? Because I know we've talked about it on a few times, really. Is that your reluctance to do it? Or is that because you don't like the structure? Is that because you can always find an excuse not to follow
Possibly a bit of everything. I think. Right or wrongly, I still think it's because every day is very different in terms of what's happened at night with the kids. One that's just not sleeping well at the moment. So that can throw hiccups into the start time of the day, the finish time of the day.
How's routine at home? Because notoriously with kids and stuff, if you haven't got one, then it's all a little bit chaotic. Do you have a routine?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Does that then filter through to your work? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, there's the routine is this is the time we want them to be getting up. Mm-hmm. they don't always get up at that time. In fact, this morning they actually overslept, which is a very rare occasion. It's 7:30, but normally sort of 6:30 they're starting to wake up.
So they've got a routine.
To a degree, yeah. Breakfast, and it's getting ready for school, then it's off to school and nursery.
Good. So there's a nice structure.
Yeah. I guess the difference is that Evan, the oldest, is now full-time at school. Zane is 2 days a week at nursery. That's changing to 3 days in January at preschool. So just the different timings and just different routine for different days. It's possibly overwhelmed. Looking at it as a 7-day week where everything is different from one day to the next. There is no routine day to day.
Do you enjoy that?
No.
Do you really enjoy that though?
Enjoy what?
That not being the same every day and not
Different.
having that chaos, if you like. Do you enjoy the chaos? Because I know some people do enjoy not knowing what's coming next, and they do kind of thrive on that. And actually, that's quite it's a good driver. I don't necessarily know what's happening all the time.
Yeah, possibly halfway in between. And again, this is probably one of the reasons why I left my job and went out to work for myself. So I didn't have to have someone else's routine in my life, which is what I could do to a degree, do the things I wanted to do when I wanted to do them, and move things around. The fact that now can sometimes cause the chaos. No, I don't like the chaos. But I guess I like the flexibility. Maybe I'm scared of living my life to this schedule.
Yeah, I think that could be the most overwhelming part of it. Is you've got your current routine, and everyone's got a routine.
Yeah,
but your current routine is reacting.
Yeah,
this has happened. I'm going to do this. Oh, I've got that to do, and I've got my to-do list here, which has got 50 million things on it. And the phone's just rung. I'm going to pick it up. Hello, or I've got a Facebook notification. And that's the current routine. And what I think we did in that last meeting was we gave you an A3 sheet of paper with on Monday you do this, on Tuesday you do that, and to go from one to the other is really scary.
Yeah.
Perhaps the main thing to do is to say, how can I change one thing? How can I change one routine? I'm going to get up at the same time every day, or I'm going to not work until 9:30 in the morning when kids are at school, regardless of the nursery or whatever day of the week it is, or I'm going to play squash every Tuesday and every Friday.
Yeah.
Or at 4 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, I'm grilling chicken and boiling broccoli. Because when you get into that habit of just knowing that, you said to me, you said just now, I'm going to try and play squash twice a week.
Yeah.
Now, trying to play squash twice a week is completely different to I play squash twice a week.
Yeah. And that's what
you just think Tom's language just now about being all in.
Yeah.
Once he decides, he's doing it. Yeah. And that's the big decision he made, was he decided to decide.
Yeah.
And he committed to, right, I'm doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I guess, the last catch up from having this A3 sheet of my whole day planned out was actually, no, it is too much to do all of that in one go, from nothing to anything. And it's picking the things that you can change one at a time. Yeah. Squash is the first. Squash next week. There we go.
It's going to cost you a gym session. But
I don't like to say it's only Monday today, but why wait till next week?
So yeah, it is. It's probably mostly in my head, and it's getting my head in that right space to either commit all in or to just have the framework there and know that it's okay sometimes not to have a routine, but to have a framework or a structure. And that if sometimes I need to break that routine because circumstances might dictate that I'm allowed to once a week or twice a week, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. If thing is, you really, really want to change squash, maybe that thing. It may be wanting to leave the office by 5 o'clock so you can get home and do the tea time routine for the kids. That may be it. So actually, 5 o'clock is my deadline. May not have got in there till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but actually at 5 o'clock, that's it. I'm off. I'm going to get home. I'm doing that with the kids. Even if you picked it up later on in the evening or whatever, however those, but actually 5 o'clock is my home time, and just choosing something like that, which actually makes that difference to you, but also makes that difference to your family as well, because then they've got that buy-in and they can say to you, Dad, you're going to be home. He can kick you out of the office at 5 o'clock. You can have the buy-in from everybody around you, because it's important that everybody buys into that. If they're going to do that, it may be squash. That may be an important thing. And if that is, then, Tom's going to take you there because you're going to go and play squash. Yeah. But you just got to think about when that's going to be, get it in the diary and decide, I'm going to do whatever that is important.
Get it in the diary and commit to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When are we going boxing?
So this is a completely different matter. I said, choose something you want to do.
Boxing was your idea.
Yeah, I had a great idea. I always have lots of ideas. My ideas are wacky. When are we going to the moon?
Oh, you'll be seeing stars when we have a boxing, don't worry.
Oh, great. Thank you. You guys have been fantastic.
Yeah, quickly before we go,
you've got something else.
as we're looking ahead to the rest of 2019, what do you think the Chancellor, the industry, the economy has got in store for property investors?
Good question.
This year?
Crystal ball's not working. I don't know. We've got Brexit coming up, haven't we? So
next month.
Hopefully,
We are recording this a little while in advance, so hopefully it's all going swimmingly. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. I did think this one wasn't going to be a particularly good question. I kind of thought by February anything could have happened. We'd have a new Prime Minister. We could have anything
too by now.
We may well have done that. General elections and referendums and all sorts, couldn't it? So this is a really tough question. Is there a better way of shaping it?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you want to shape it again then?
What do property investors need to look out for? Apart from the obvious Brexit and uncertainty in 2019, what should they be? Are there storm clouds gathering?
There may well be. We go through various cycles as time goes on. Property investors have always stuck to it thick and thin. It depends really on what does happen. In a buoyant market, investors will still root out good deals. They'll find the problem properties, the problem scenarios that they can then pick up property at a good price that works for them. Again, if there's a crash and house prices tumble, then they'll be buying cheap property because the market's moved down.
Yeah.
Investing in property is a long game. People tend to do it for the long term, and price and values are up and down, up and down, up and down. But historically, there's always been an upward trend, and investors will come through it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can happen to shield against these negative things?
There are lenders now that will let you sort of gear up quite high, by a really sort of high loan to value. I would have a watchful eye over where you are in that sense, and
we're not quite 125%.
No, we're nowhere near that. But then, having said that, unless you're planning to sell that property, to a degree, even if you do go into negative equity, this is not advice by the way, but if you went into negative equity and you're holding the property, as long as your cash flow works, so your rental income is going to be higher by a margin, and you've stress tested it, and
you can deal with voids,
and you can handle voids, as long as you have the infrastructure in place to know that you will have voids, you will have maintenance to do. It's not so much about capital values as they go up and down; it's about the cash flow element to it, and making sure that you've stress tested at higher rates and that you can withstand the voids and maintenance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. There's a book just over your right shoulder there, Tony Robbins, Unshakable. And it talks about the financial markets and particularly in the stock market. And it says exactly that. When a crash comes, that's the opportunity.
Yeah.
And what most people do is when the price drops 30, 40%, they go, oh my God, it's going to fall further. I need to cash out. And they then realise that loss. Whereas actually if they just held and weathered it through, and obviously with cash flow, you need to be able to do that. You need to actually be able to cover your mortgage over this period. You'd actually be a lot better off.
Yeah.
And you don't realise that loss. Isn't a loss until you actually exit a deal.
Yeah, it's just on paper.
Yeah. And I know I've listened to sort of some Rob Moore recently, and I heard him say a couple of months back, he said, I wish it was 2008 again.
Yeah.
He said, because I would have bought twice as much property as I did. Yeah. He said, if I'd known then how cheap those properties were in 2008 and all the opportunity that was there, oh my God, he said, I've gone on a spending spree. It's the Black Friday sale. Recessions and even great periods like the credit crunch or the global financial crisis, they are opportunities. Yeah. And I think it's those that see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we don't. Do you think more will be done to weed out the accidental landlords?
Yeah, I mean, accidental landlords are now considered to be a regulated mortgage, whereas investing for business purposes, the intent to let the property out is a non-regulated activity. So there is a bit more protection, if you like, industry protection for the accidental landlords because it's considered accidental and not a business decision. I think the gap will grow bigger between the accidentals and the portfolio landlords. Yeah. This kind of halfway house in the middle will probably reduce.
Yeah.
But people will either then sort of sell and shrink to smaller landlords or grow the portfolio further. Potentially safety in numbers.
Yeah. So guys, thank you for joining us on the podcast today. For those listening who want to get in touch with you and learn more about 360 Mortgages and what you do, perhaps have a chat about their own portfolio, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Drop us an email, probably the easiest way. My email is david@360mortgages, and that is all words. So THREESIXTY mortgages.com. And Tom's is the same, but
with Tom on the front. So it's Tom at 360mortgages.com.
Very good. That's
or Facebook page.
THREEXIXSI. You've done this before, haven't you? Go on, do it again. It's like a jingle, this.
3 THREE 60 SIXTY mortgages.com.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.